Thank you, please. Just y'all too much. I can't believe everybody's here. Thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart for being here. And Scott, who is one of my oldest friends, many decades, thank you too, and to the ADL staff and the host committee that put this all together. What I'd like to do, if it's all right, is would y'all indulge me in a moment of personal privilege? There's two people that are here today that I really never thought I'd see again. And I don't mean to embarrass them, but can you all stand up? Tony Harris and Angela Harris, and I see you all in the back of the room. Let me tell you all about them. You can sit down, I guess, and I don't want to embarrass you too much, but I want to take a moment. And it's fitting as to why we're here today. Tony Harris was in a real bad tractor-trailer accident up in North Florida. I guess it was about 3-4 years ago. And we handled the case. In fact, he's sitting there with co-counsel Mike Swan, who I guess must have arranged for him to be here today. That's mighty kind of you, Michael. And so, you know, it came time, we're getting close to trial, and the settlement offers were a little penurious, you know, on the cheap side, on the low side, and said to Tony, what do you want to do? And Tony Harris, who's was not a rich person, said, you know, they're not treating me right. I want to go to trial. And I said, you know, Tony, you sure you want to do that up in North Florida? And is that sure you want to do that? He says, yes, I'm an American. Remember this like it was yesterday. He says, I'm an American, and I believe in the judicial system. And I believe in the jury trial system, and I'm not afraid. Let's do it. And so my team here at one of these two tables here, we moved the show up to Jacksonville for a few weeks. And when the smoke cleared, Tony Harris and his wife, Angela Harris, had a very full measure of justice. And that was a great thing, but that's only the first part of the story. The second part of the story is we wondered what he would do with his money. And, you know, we hear so much bad things in the newspaper and all this bad news. I want you to know there's hope. And this is a prime example of it. What they did was they put it into an organization they created where underprivileged kids who would have dropped out of school, who would have gotten into drugs and done bad things, got into track and field. And they associated themselves with the Olympics and the Amateur Athletic Association. And they have, over the last few years, taken about 1,000 kids. And they not only teach them track and field, but they teach them good study habits and how to be real Americans and how to respect people and not to hate. And a lot of these kids have not only graduated high school, they've gone on to college, they've gone into our military service, and a couple of them have been in the Olympics. And we salute you. Well, I want to tell you all a story that you probably don't know. And I wanted to share this. We have our students here from Nautilus Middle School in Miami Beach, and I want to share this with you too, and I hope you don't have to go through this. But when I was about your age, maybe a little younger, one day after class, some bigger kids from outside my class came up to me and started pushing me around and called me names I hadn't heard before, and called me a dirty Jew, and called me Jew boy. So I remember like it was yesterday, Jew boy. And I didn't know what to take of it. I certainly didn't like it. And when I got home that night, I told my mother what had happened. And my mother was a great Southern lady, a generational from the South, as Scott had mentioned to you, and was very, very refined. Never cursed, very mannerly, never had a bad thing to say about anybody. And I said to her what had happened. I said, why did they do this? And what can I do to stop it? And my mother looked at me and said, well, they did this because they're Nazi bastards. And next time, you just got to knock them upside the head. And that means I'm supposed to beat them up. And so I said, yes, ma'am, and that's what I did, and a lot. And I thought that would, and it seemed at the time the right thing to do, and it seemed that it kind of solved the problem. But you know how locusts will invade the world and then all of a sudden they disappear and they go underground into hibernation? Well, that's kind of what happened with these Nazis and whatever other name they might call themselves, because they're back. And we fought World War II, the greatest generation. We lost so many hundreds of thousands of soldiers. A lot of people in this room have had family members that fought and died in that war to defeat that type of Nazi tyranny that is against everything that America stands for. And to think that they're back now, all of our brave Americans must be rolling over in their graves. And we can't let this happen. And so what do? And by the way, is that the Kathy Rundle that I see sitting out there? That you got recognizing? Thank you, Kathy, for being here. And so, what do we do? How do we stop this? And it seems like what's worse is these are native-born Americans. They're citizens doing this. Well, I've learned that the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, has the antidote to this virus, this plague, this infestation. And they figured it out, and they've allowed me to tell you about it. They realize that there's one thing that will stop Nazis and people like that from flourishing, and that's our judicial system. That's our United States Constitution, our Bill of Rights. That's what we're made of. See, they can't flourish in that type of an open society where the rule of law is king, and there is no king, and no one's above the law. And so what the ADL is very smartly, they've established a program throughout the United States, in the state of Florida, and in Miami-Dade County, and that's where these young students from Nautilus Middle School come from, and it's called the No Place for Hate program. And they teach these children about the American way, and they're doing a good job, but they can't do it alone, and they don't have the ability to act like lawyers because they're not lawyers, and that's where we come in. Who better than to teach these kids about the Bill of Rights and about a free and impartial judiciary, and how everybody that appears in the court of law, and it doesn't matter how poor you are, how rich you are, what political party you're from, none of that matters, because it's all a level playing field. And so the ADL wants us, and it's just a clarion call, and it's an all hands on deck call. And now's the time. Can't wait any longer. Please give your name, your card, whether you're a judge or a lawyer, even a non-lawyer, to one of the ADL representatives. Give it to me or email me, and we'll see that you get plugged into one of these programs. There's Michelle Suskauer I saw here. There she is. She's the president-elect of the Florida Bar. There's 100,000 lawyers more in the state of Florida, probably more than 1 million in the United States. What a great force. Put to good, we will eradicate this type of behavior and save America. And if you believe that the founding fathers got it right, and I'm talking about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton and George Wythe, when they created our beautiful legal system and judicial system, then you'll join in this effort, and together we will make the difference. Well, I am so thankful for this. I don't deserve any recognition, but I'm very thankful. And a little bit ago, Burton Young, is Burton still here? I think I see him. Burton and David. Burton Young and David Young are kind of really my adopted family, and they pulled me aside, and they said, you know, Edward, you sure are a lucky guy. Look at all these wonderful people here that have come out for the ADL and say hello to you, and They said, you got this nice firm, and my partner there of 40 years, Steve Deutsch and Diane Deutsch are my partner too, after all these years, and our partner Cosme Caballero and Aaron Bohannon, and my son Bo is a lawyer with our firm now, and my daughter, our daughter Caroline, who has a master's degree in technology, does our technology. I said, yeah, sure am lucky. And then they said to me, well, Edward, what you're really lucky about is your wife, Ileana. She says, what would you have done? She said, oh, she puts up with you. And that's true. And she said, she said, Edward, what would you have done if you had not found Ileana? And I thought about it for a moment and said, David Burton, if I had not found Ileana, I'd have to spend the rest of my life looking for her. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you.